You have basically AI is going to take that higher automation of work and stuff, and it is crypto that's going to transform the entire financial services industry. And you know how much money, how much financial assets there are in the world? I'm the only guy that knows. 630 trillion and growing. 5 times 105 trillion GDP. It's the biggest number in the world. And when I heard the crypto's basically about decentralizing and automating finance, I'm like, oh, that's going to be a really big thing. No question. And it is. And it's in its infancy still.
Well, hello, Robert Kiyosaki. And today I have a very special guest, longtime friend, and person I have tremendous respect for in an offhanded way is Harry Dent. And the reason I like Harry Dent is no bullshit. He will change his point of view if he has to change his point of view. So I don't have to worry about there being 3 or 4 Harry Dents out there. There's one Harry Dent at that moment, and he will tell you whatever he's thinking to be true for him at this moment, popular or unpopular. And I was paid the highest honor, Harry, that's saying, you're as pessimistic as Harry Dent. And I said, God, what a compliment that is. It's because a lot of people have Pollyanna, all the stocks, S&P is going up forever, bonds are safe. You can trust the Federal Reserve Bank. I'm going, what? And so Harry Dent is a man who will tell you what's going on for him. It may be popular, it may be unpopular, but he will tell you what he thinks at this moment. So Harry, welcome to the Rich Dad Radio Show.
Yeah, nice to be here, Robert.
It's good. So can you be as pessimistic as possible? Because
things have gotten a little too bullish here. Yeah, we got to bring things down a little bit.
No, but the thing I was saying is that you changed your points of view. And some people would say, well, it's inconsistent. I said, no, he's consistent. He'll tell you what is going on at that moment for him because things are changing. When you and I were kids, America was the richest country in the world. Today, we're the biggest debtor nation in the world. And for us to say, oh, don't worry, the Fed can keep printing, I think is a lie. I don't know what you think. But we're printing, $1 trillion every 2 months or something like that. And as they say, what's that law? Some law says, if it'll end, it'll end. So that's what I like about you is that you're up to the minute. You're a demographer, which means you look at what demographics are saying, and you will tell us what you think at this moment. And a year from now, you may change. I respect that. So Harry, be as pessimistic as you like. I love it.
Well, here's the simple story here. When I started forecasting the early 80s, I got the greatest criticism for? I was unbelievably bullish and not on Japan back then, on the United States of America. So, Japan had come along and taken a lot of our older industries because they were much more efficient and all that stuff. And I said, but Japan is the fastest aging developed country in the world. They're the ones that are going to go down after 1990, and we're going to have the greatest boom in history. Why? We have the greatest generation ever to hit the earth, called the baby boom generation back then. Still is. It just now they're aging and they're no longer driving the economy. But this couldn't have been simpler. And because I didn't have a PhD in economics, which economists criticize me for, I was simple enough to say, oh, here's a good indicator. I know for certainty U.S. statistics, and only the U.S. has the best statistics studying consumers every year, surveys. The average person enters the workforce 20 and spends the most at 46. So all I got to do to see the future is take the birth index and move it forward 46 years from when the highest amount of people will be spending the most money. Extremely simple. Well, I started doing that in the early 80s, and boy, did I get blowback. When I was so bullish and stuff. Oh my God, no, you don't understand. We're not going to have any industries left. Japan and East Asia are going to take them all over. I said, no, look at their demographics. They peak in the late 80s, early 90s and fall off a cliff forever. And they're still falling off that cliff, by the way. And so,
Harry,
first thing I learned, you can't just look at the trend.
You introduced the world to a very important word, demography.
Yes. Demo-
Demographics.
People do predictable things as they
Yes.
age in particular.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
you
if I'm the economy, do I want a 5-year-old screaming all the time and crapping in their diapers and costing all this money and having to see doctors and then, getting over the cost of the birth thing? Or do I want a 46-year-old at the peak of their career spending the most money and just getting their kids out of college so they can turn around and do the same thing next round for the next generational boom? And boy, do I want a bunch of old people? Ooh, no, ask Japan. Japan came out of nowhere, took over the earth for a short period of time. They were the ones that got old first. And since I was studying demographics, that was obvious to me that Japan was playing a catch-up game. I kept saying when I was lecturing in the 80s, hey, yes, Japan's doing great, but what industries are they taking over? Steel, okay? Old industries, okay? Who's leading high-tech information technology? Personal computers, Microsoft software, it's us. And who's producing the customized products that go for a premium? So I don't know. I just learned because I didn't study economics, Robert. I had a major in economics, and after the third course, I said, "This is conceptual, vague, boring. Nobody likes it. I can't even, learn much from it." And my father's best friend say, "You know what? We wish we had done, little Harry." They called me. They said, "We wish we'd have studied accounting and finance. That's what kills us in business. We know how to market. We know how to manage. We're people. We can't figure out the damn numbers." And read our own balance sheets and P&L. So that's what I majored in college. But I always had my eye on Harvard Business School or Stanford. And I knew I wanted to get an MBA, and I was going to take what I call the important marketing management, big picture stuff there. And that's what I did, and I started with a major in economics and quit it after that third course and studied everything else about business. And then I worked at Bain and Company, consultant to Fortune 100 companies that were failing back then because of the Eastern and global competition. And then I couldn't work with big companies. They were just too slow. So I jumped off. I took a job turning around a publishing company in California. And then after that, I got one job after the next. All small businesses do is fail. That's why they're so productive. Failure, by the way, is the secret to success. Tolerance
Amen, brother. Amen.
makes entrepreneurs and the most successful people, because most people, as Elon Musk said recently, will quit after the first major failure. So I turned around 6 companies in difficulty in the 1980s, consulted a lot of small businesses, and then started my own business around my newsletter in 1989, and never went to an office again. Still sitting right now in my den doing my work on my computer in Puerto Rico, looking over the water, not close to anything. I could be in Lincoln, Nebraska, and so that just happened naturally. But I learned that the key thing is the truth. If you dig hard enough, you can find the truth about anything. People kept telling me, Harry, nobody can predict the economy that far out. There's too many things that can change. The president, I don't care who's president. I have never cared who's president. They make differences in some areas here and there. I've never had to rely on that to predict. It's 300 million people in the United States growing up, costing everybody money and causing trouble when they're young, but learning rapidly, entering the workforce, getting better and better and better, more and more productive. That's 20 to 46, and then plateauing into middle life, into the mid 50s, and then slowly declining into retirement and then disappearing. And all of those stages have their pros and cons. Who invest all the money? The people from 50 to 63 when they enter retirement. Okay, they're the ones that invest the most, but who spends the money? 20 to 46. Now it's 47 in most countries. And this is what makes the economy macro so predictable. 46-year lag on the birth index. Only hard about that is I have to adjust for immigration, and I can do that accurately. It's just
So,
hard.
Harry, that's why I respect you, because you will tell it the way it is, as you call it, as you see it. So my question is what do you see coming for America, then Japan and Germany? Because I was just traveling, I travel the world. And you remember not too long ago, Japan and Germany were our enemies. Then
Yeah.
they became trading partners. But today, Germany and Japan and America, as you say, our demographics are changing. And what's that mean to the world when Germany, Japan, and America's demographics change? What do you see coming?
Well, very simply, Northern Europe and North America have the best demographics in the developed world. East Asia, and this includes China, even though they're not a developed country yet, but Korea, Japan have the worst. Okay, when for some reason when people in East Asia get affluent, they not only have less babies, they have a lot less babies. Everybody that gets affluent basically starts to think about money and think about their kids getting into a good school and them making money. And that means they don't want to have 4, 5, 6 kids as they did in the good old days in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Okay. They want to have 1 or 2 kids and get them into Harvard or Stanford or whatever. Okay. And so affluence actually eventually slows countries because there's fewer kids. So if you're not having kids or if you're not like the United States where, hey, we're having fewer kids, but we are strong on immigration, and Australia is even stronger than us, and New Zealand, Australia, if I looked at their charts, their demographics, and didn't know they were rich like us, not quite as rich, but neither, I would think they were an emerging country. Why? They're getting constant flow of immigration, not from South America and Mexico, from East and Southeast Asia, where everybody loves those workers. So they've got high quality and high quantity of immigration. So between births and immigration, and I've got a bell curve of immigrants, Robert. It took me some work on that, but I did my research, and I can take the immigrants coming in the country and distribute them back to when they were born as if they'd always been in that country. So that same birth index that I lagged forward 46 years and will tell me almost 50 years in advance who's going to boom the most and when, and who's going to bust and when, works even better when I can calculate an immigrant. So that's how simple the economy can be.
I'm going to
Again,
ask
so
you.
I started, I was bullish way on, and now I'm bearish.
So let me ask you this question then. Immigration's a big issue today. Namely when Biden took down Trump's wall, I think 13 million came across it, whatever it was. So you have immigration. Is there, without being too racial, is there better immigration from different countries? Because immigration is a big problem in Europe.
There's no question there's different quality of immigrants. That again, Australia is the most favored country because their birth rates are their domestic birth rates are really not any stronger than Northern Europe or United States, where they compete with standard living stuff. But their immigrants are not only higher as a percentage of the economy than even the U.S., and we're seen as the biggest immigrant magnet in the world. But compared to the size of the country, Australia gets a higher percent, and coming from East and Southeast Asia, they are more educated. They have a stronger work ethic. Okay. I hate to say it. I mean, there are differences. They are stronger as immigrants than the typical people we get from Mexico and Central America. But even those immigrants are motivated and work hard, and I'll take them every day of the week.
Okay. So when we come back, I'm going to ask you this question. When you say East and Southeast Asia, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions when we come back. What countries East and Southeast Asia? And the second question I have is, we have, guys like Rickards is writing a book on AI. And I was at a conference the other day about super AI. And then, the idea of going to school to get a job might be an obsolete idea. Do you know what I mean? Because I can do contracts off of GBT. I don't need an attorney. And so this idea of going to school for job security, I want your point of view from a demographic point of view. What is AI going to do to affect so-called education? What educational choices or professions? And what they're saying right now, Harry, is you want a profession where you work with your hands, like an electrician or a plumber or something where you have to work with your hands. But if you're working purely with your brain, you might be planning to be obsolete in a few years. So those are the questions I want to ask you. So when we come back from the break, at that point, you can gear your brain up to tell us what you see from demographic points of view, immigration, specifically which countries, and then what your viewpoint on AI is to education. So will you be a better, more secure as a plumber than as a accountant?
Yeah,
That's the
I don't
question.
want to be a plumber. I'll start there and I'll get when we come back.
We'll be right back. Okay. So Harry, glad you're part of the Rich Dad Show. I always enjoy it because I know you won't bullshit us. So thank you. We'll be right back with Harry Dent.
They say every crisis is new, but it's not. It's the same crisis, getting bigger. What does the Fed do every time they screw up? 1987 crash, they printed fake money. 1998 hedge fund collapse, printed fake money. 2019 repo market seizure, printed fake money. COVID, more printing. Silicon Valley Bank, same thing. Now they're doing it again. Inflation is rising. The dollar has dropped over 10% this year, and the United States is over $37 trillion in debt. We are the biggest debtor nation in history, and it's all because of the Federal Reserve. I don't trust the dollar, and I don't trust the system. That's why I buy real assets, gold, silver, Bitcoin, real estate. They laughed when I said silver would hit $70. Now it's pushing $39. It's already up 29% this year. Gold is up over 28%. It just broke another record in 2025 and is trading around $3,300 an ounce. Some experts say gold could hit $6,000 before Trump leaves office. If you're saving cash, you're saving fake money. Savers are losers. I convert fake dollars into real gold and silver, and I hold it outside the system. Right now, there's a legal way to add physical gold and silver to your IRA or 401k without paying taxes or penalties. If you have over $100,000 sitting in a bank or retirement account, pick up the phone and call Priority Gold at 866-703-9895. Ask for my 2025 Rich Dad Wealth Defense Guide. It's completely free, no pressure, just real answers. You'll talk to a specialist who will walk you through how to move part of your savings into real, tangible assets. You'll get instant access to a free guide and the opportunity to speak with someone that you can trust. I believe the biggest crash in history is coming. The question is, will you be ready?
Welcome back. I'm very happy to have a very special guest, longtime friend, and a person I respect is Harry Dent. He introduced me to the term demography. Demography is destiny, and that you can predict the future by looking at demographics. And the thing I like about Harry, as demographics change, he'll change. And the other day, Harry, I was saying to you, somebody says you're as pessimistic as Harry Dent, and I took that as a compliment because it's because you won't bullshit us. That's, as you and I know, in this world of YouTube, a lot of bullshit out there. And so that's why I respect your forthrightness, your candor. Right or wrong, you'll tell us exactly what demography is telling us. So before we went to break, I asked you, Australia was introducing immigration of certain countries. Which countries? From what races are they coming from?
It's basically China, Japan, Korea, Southeast Asia, Thailand, Cambodia, Indonesia, which is right on top of Australia, and India. So Australia is the only Western country, along with tiny New Zealand, which is definitely more sleepy, okay, is right on the edge of the Pacific Rim, which is the growth explosion. I mean, long after I'm dead, it's going to be in Africa, but Africa is not going to be the big player in our lifetime. It is Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, and next after China, and China's already maturing. In fact, they overexpanded and made some huge mistakes, but India is absolutely, I'd stake my life on that. Everything I know is going to be the next big thing. And they are going to be, if anything, richer than China and have even more people because their population is still going up. China's getting ready to shrink from 1.4 billion to 800 million over the next 50 years, while India goes from 1.4 to 1.7 or 1.8. And I've been to both countries, and I love Indian workers, and it's particularly Indian professional and managerial people I meet. So India is going to be even economists. When I'm over in India, Indian economists try to argue me why India will never be like China. I'm like, no, India at the same stage of urbanization development is already ahead of where China was.
So I was in Mumbai, India, in the slums because I want to study what causes slums because of homelessness in America. So I went to Mumbai to study the slums so I could see what's happening in America. So I want to look at that, what's the correlation? And the thing I want to say this, I paid the Indians a high compliment. They're gearheads technology. They're very smart technologically.
And they're realists. They look at fact. They're very matter of fact and down to the point.
Yes.
I agree with it. I've been the most impressed of any major country.
And when I'm in Japan, because I'm Japanese, I can criticize them. They don't get it because in the Japanese culture, Harry, savers are winners.
Yeah.
But what has happened since the Federal Reserve, since 1971, when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, savers became the biggest losers around. But the Japanese still save money. And I took a company public in China, a gold company out of Toronto Stock Exchange, and the Chinese stole it. They called me up and said, how badly do you want your gold mine in China, in Dalian? And they said, buy. They wanted $2 million, Harry. And I went, I'll never do business in a country where they do not respect law, the order of law. So I like Australia and New Zealand, although they're a bunch of characters, beer drinking rugby players, as far as I'm concerned. But they respect the rule of law. So that plus demography, ethnicity. And the Indians are very, very technologically smart as well as smart.
The thing that I get excited about here, back in my Roaring 2000s book, that was back in 1998. Okay, people ask me, "Hey, well, Harry, you don't talk about AI." I said I called it the automation of managerial and professional work all the way back in the 90s when nobody even thought that was possible, because that's where the most intelligence is. And that's where it would take the highest computing power and sophistication. And that's what AI is about. We automated farmers down to 2%. They used to be 50% of our population. Now they produce more than we can eat and export on 1.5 to 2%. Well, then there was the manufacturing workers. Well, they were 40% of our workforce. Now I thought it was 14. They're already down to 10% a few years later. Because there's two ways to get rich. You grow up and learn more, enter the workforce at 20, and then explode in your productivity. The other way is you automate lower skills and you move people into higher value added skills. So automation, everybody, we're going to lose all our jobs. No, losing jobs is precisely how you make money, especially if it's lower end. And most managerial professions, that's why I couldn't work in corporate America. They're just bureaucrats. They're not doing creative stuff.
They're obsolete.
I mean, yeah, they're obsolete. And so I had to keep trading down. Bain & Company is a consultant to these monsters, and then small companies, and then literally entrepreneurs, startup entrepreneurs told me, here's my people. The highest value added is a person that will have a vision, create something that does not exist, and prove it and stuff, and get it into the niche markets where they'll be tested, and then that becomes an S curve that explodes in the world. And that's how you create the highest value. And guess who still leads in that today? US of A. Even over Canada, even over Northern Europe, other people more like us. Okay, so that's our thing. We're the entrepreneurial factory of the world, and we're still doing that. So the more we can get all these smart managers. I mean, I came out of Harvard Business School. Most of the people there were not entrepreneurs. I pretty quickly just was kind of forced into being an entrepreneur because nothing else worked for me. I just kind of had to be. But more and more of these bright people can become entrepreneurs and create new businesses or expand young businesses, because there's far more growth and payback there than making the old giants just a team. All we did at Bain & Company was make these dead companies a little bit more alive, so they didn't just roll over and die.
What's going to happen to these smart Harvard business guys is you don't need them, because AI will replace AI.
No, exactly. I mean, I say that 80% of what managerial and professional workers in corporations, even small, mid, large, most, professional workers, it's still 80% left brain work. Computers are left brain machines at light speed, and you could take the expertise of those people, program the machines, automate those jobs. And then people only have one choice. They have to come in and greatly improve an existing operation, or they have to create something new that didn't exist. And of course, when you do that, it comes down a learning curve and a cost curve, becomes more affordable. That's how we build wealth. We take things that are expensive and hard to get now and make them mass affordable, both making consumers better deals than what they get and workers get better jobs at the same time. So we have to keep trading up. We can't keep deal. We ought to let these we ought to sail them across the Pacific to Asia, these jobs.
So once again, AI will replace AI. It's called super AI. And so the reason I'm into this, because as I've been saying for years, biggest obsolete idea is go to school so you can get a job. Do you know what I mean? Today you better be an entrepreneur.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. It all comes down to what we haven't automated is the right brain. And I've known plenty of spacey right brain people that can't tie their shoelaces. Right? But the right brain tagged with a strong left brain or with computer left brain, that's where the creativity to improve things and create things that don't exist now. People say, oh, that's not possible. You know how many times I've told people it's not possible to predict the economy past the next election? That's the biggest phrase I've gotten all my life. And I'm like, no, I have a harder time predicting accurately the next couple of years. The long term is a piece of cake. Countries are urbanizing at predictable rates and getting higher GDP per capita at predictable rates from that. People grow up and go through predictable ages of spending, investing, all these things. And, there's a lot of predictable stuff. And these things all measure how we create higher value. And we can always do more.
Check this out. That game board behind me is right brain, isn't it? Color 4. It's accounting. I took the most boring subject in business school for me was accounting.
Exactly.
And I turned it right brain into a board game. That's what I did. I love you so much, Harry.
So people can learn it easier, right?
Yeah. Well, you got to make learning fun, because guys like you can go to Harvard Business School. I went to military school, and we're trained differently. Do you know what I mean? There's, guys at Harvard are only modeling, and we learn military. Military, I think, is different than modeling theory. And so it's completely different. But my whole point of view is kids are not prepared for what's coming, because your competitor is now living in India. Yeah. And they're creating AI. And the reason I'm in Phoenix, Arizona is because, Texas, TSC, Taiwan Semiconductors moved their plants here. So I just know from real estate, not being a very bright guy, that real estate dependent upon jobs. So when Taiwan Semiconductors moved to Arizona, they call it Silicon Desert, not Silicon Valley. So Arizona is Silicon Desert. Our real estate's booming. I mean, it's not rocket science, but I didn't go to Harvard Business School to know if there's jobs, there's rental property needed. So Harry, one more prediction on demographics. And I think this one's the one I wanted you to comment on. This is my friend, Jim Rickards. And he's talking about money GBT will replace banks. It says that it's a very dire prediction. Money is just going to take away money.
But it's a good thing. Yeah. The whole crypto movement, which Bitcoin is just a standard for and maybe the center of, is all about radically decentralizing money and finance. It's always been difficult. It's always been hard to reach a bureaucrat. No, I mean, it just makes it direct. This is a huge thing. You have basically AI is going to take that higher automation of work and stuff. And it is crypto that's going to transform the entire financial services industry. And you know how much money, how much financial assets there are in the world? I'm the only guy that knows. 630 trillion and growing. 5 times 105 trillion GDP. It's the biggest number in the world. And when I heard that crypto is basically about decentralizing and automating finance, I'm like, oh, that's going to be a really big thing. No question. And it is. And it's in its infancy still.
And that's why I say AI and Bitcoin, which are related, really.
Yes, they are. Yes.
It's going to change the world so fast, Harry,
Yes.
because we all use intelligence and we all use money.
I got 3 charts on my desk. One's the the QQQ, the Nasdaq 100. One's Bitcoin, the crypto trend leader, and Nvidia, the AI. All 3 of these charts right now are accelerating, but in a declining channel that looks like it's about all 3 of them. In fact, Nvidia is the only one that hasn't quite hit its peak. Another 1 or 2%. I think that we've seen this big stimulation. These new technologies have emerged strongly, and we're getting ready for a shakeout, which always occurs at a certain stage in the product and the industry life cycle. So as much as I love these industries, all 3 of these charts tell me big crash likely ahead in the next couple of years, and that will shake down. And people don't understand. I was a turnaround manager. Failure is wonderful. When people fail, you can change things 10 times as fast. You learn 10 times as fast. Failure is the secret to success, not getting your ass kissed and everybody, oh, you're so great. And Harvard MBA, the Harvard education can work against you, okay? Literally, okay? You can be overeducated. So I think we're about to see some exciting times, but it could start off. We really should have had this crash back in 2020 to 22 when the baby boom demographics were still down, and that was weak, okay? But all this stimulus, and I got a number on that, 29 trillion since 2008 has been poured in an economy that's averaged like maybe 18, 20 trillion in GDP. It's now closer to 30, but average. It's like 8% a year average stimulus for 16 years poured in, and people think, oh, we're doing good. We're growing 2 to 3%. No, we should be growing at 7 to 10% with that much stimulus. It shows you how weak the economy would have been without it. We would have had more like the 1930s. And the 1930s was just a long shakeout after a great bubble boom from 1900 to 1929, peaking in the roaring 20s. And that's part of the business cycle. There's nothing wrong with having a bubble that finances a lot of new businesses easily and then flushing them out to see who's really the survival of the fittest. And 90% of them die. That's how progress actually works. Let a bunch of people try a bunch of crazy stuff and shake it out and see who doesn't die. That's innovation. You can't plan that type of innovation.
Harry, I love you, man. I don't have to worry about you being forthright. So my question is, how do my fans stay in touch with you? Because I think you're kind of the lead dog right now.
I've got a paid newsletter, but you can get on my free newsletter. You just go to harrydent.com. Put in your email. You're going to get an article from me every week, a rant or 2 a month personally. And then if you think, hey, yeah, this is good, you can get on my newsletter anytime. But you can try us out first, and it's free. And the free newsletter is damn good. My people keep telling me you're giving away too much free, Harry, but I'd rather talk to more people. I've got, 20 times the free people I've got paid. I'm happy with that. I want to talk to more people.
Amen, brother. That's capitalism. That's capitalism. So, Harry, thank you. Thank you very much. I love our relationship. And
I do too.
I'll say it again. I don't have to worry about there being 2 Harry Dents. And that's why you'll probably never be a politician.
No. My father was in politics. I ruled that out right away. And he was very good at it.
Yeah. So, Harry, thank you very much. And look forward to having you back. And we'll be right back with a final word from Rich Dad. Thank you again, Harry.
Thank you, Robert.
Welcome back. Thank Harry Dent. And the world's changing at a high rate of speed. And I think something that's valuable today is not that the person's telling the truth, but the person will share with you exactly how they feel. So that's why I appreciate Harry Dent. He's not about being popular. He's a demographer. He studies demographics, and he'll tell you what he thinks. So thank you for being a part of the Rich Dad Radio Show, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.